Hey there friends, it's Laurie. Today we're getting started making some Valentine's Day DIYs. I'm giving a Dollar Tree love sign and ombre effect, making a pretty heart wreath using some Dollar Tree tutus, and I also made a romantic candle set, and I'll list the supplies for each as we work along. I hope you have fun crafting with me, so let's get busy. Getting started, I'm using a Dollar Tree wooden love sign. It measures about 13.5 inches in length and 5.5 inches in height. It's a nice quality piece. It's thick enough to stand up on its own, or you can hang it. Because some of my paint colors are light, I'm going to give it a coat of white acrylic paint first. I'm having mine stand on its own, so I removed the jute hanger. I'm using all acrylic paint and I'm starting with a true red. I'm painting to just about the halfway mark on the L. As I'm painting, I'm doing my best, trying to keep the paint on the flat top. Now that I'm done, I'm using my white acrylic paint. I'm adding some to the red paint, and as I'm working back and forth, I'm pulling it towards the rest of the L. I'm now using my cherry cobbler paint and blending about halfway onto the O. I'm not being super fussy, I'm just moving my paintbrush back and forth, blending the colors together. I'm now adding on some white paint and blending the colors, pulling it from the O slightly onto the V. My next color is magenta, and this came from the Dollar Tree. I'm blending it from the O into the V. As I'm adding on each color, I'm moving from one into the next, not allowing the paint on the sign to dry. I'm now using a damp paintbrush, and I'm blending the colors from the L all the way down into the E. When I was done with my first pass using the damp paintbrush, I then went back and over the letters again 2 more times. This was my end result when the love dried, but I was a little messy, so I went back, used the white paint, and cleaned up the edges. Now that I've cleaned up and freshened the white paint, I think it makes a pretty accent and it's perfect for Valentine's Day. I'm popping in today to let you know that I'm participating in my monthly friend collab group. It's hosted each month by my sweet friend Liana from Liana DIY. This month, our guest host is Ashley from Crafts with Ash DIY and Decor. And we also have Brenda from Rustic and Lace DIY. You can check out these talented ladies' channels along with my other crafty friends by clicking on the playlist. I'll have that linked below in my description. If this is your first time stopping by, please consider clicking on that little red subscribe button below and leaving me a thumbs up. To all my returning and new friends, I can't wait to talk to you down in the comments. To make my pretty heart wreath, I'm using 3 of the adult Valentine's Day tutu skirts, and I found these at the Dollar Tree. There are 2 layers of pink tulle on the inside, and I used my seam ripper and removed all of the layers from the waistband. Now that I'm done, I have the tutu skirt fabric folded in half. The front has pink foil hearts, and on the inside fabric there's silver. I also have the folded pieces of pink tulle, but I'm going to hang on to those for another project. I'm cutting the heart fabric 10 inches in length, then into 1-inch wide strips. Instead of scissors, you can always use a rotary blade, and for some reason mine is MIA, so I just stuck with my scissors. While you're cutting, if your strips aren't perfect, not to worry, because once the wreath is put together, you'll never even notice. This isn't a traditional fabric, it's more like a stiff tulle. To remove the wrinkles, before I started cutting, I placed a hand towel over the fabric and then used my steam iron. I'm attaching the strips of fabric onto a Dollar Tree metal heart wreath form. Getting started, I'm wrapping my first strip around the outside and inside wire, then tying it into a knot. I'm now adding on my next strip, this one around the 2 inside wires, and tying that into a knot. After adding each strip, I slide it down tightly next to the one before it. What you're making is basically a rag wreath, and I continued adding on the strips and working my way around the heart. I used 3 of the Valentine's adult tutus from the Dollar Tree, and after cutting all the strips for the wreath, I used a full 2 and about a half of the fabric from the third. I added on the last few strips of fabric, and now my wreath is finally complete. There are a few uneven ends here and there, so I'm using my scissors and trimming them off. And while I'm at it, I'm also giving it a slight trim to keep it in that pretty heart shape. With the wreath complete, you can hang it as is. For my wreath, I'm adding one of the pretty pink sparkly hearts from the Dollar Tree into the center. I removed the hanger from the heart and then turned my wreath over. Using my glue gun, I added a generous amount of hot glue around the frame of the heart. Quickly before the glue cooled, I placed down my sparkly heart and centered the wreath on the top. When I was done, I pressed down on it for about a minute or so, giving the hot glue a chance to set up. I'm adding a hanger onto the back of my wreath using an 18-inch piece of floral wire. I turned my wreath over and wrapped the floral wire around the outside wire on the wreath. I then wrapped the other end of the wire on the other side of my wreath. This only cost me $6.25 to make, minus the tax and my glue sticks, and I think it makes the prettiest addition to my Valentine's decor. Getting started, I'm using two 10.5-inch wooden candlestick holders. These were actually a yard sale discard, and I grabbed them up thinking I could probably make something with them. The only thing wrong is they don't have a base, so I'm going to add one on. I have two wooden discs. They measure 2 inches in length and they're 3/4 of an inch thick. I'm attaching each to the bottom of my candlestick holders using my E6000. I added on a generous amount of glue and then attached the two together. I gave them time to set up, and now I'm going to paint them with my pretty light pink acrylic paint. I'm recycling my candle holders, but you can always use some that you already have on hand or even pick up a set at a thrift store. They dried into this pretty pink color, and now I'm going to embellish them. To make the bows, I'm using two 24 by 1 inch pieces of lace ribbon that I already had on hand. I'm attaching them together using two 8-inch pieces of floral wire. To make the bows, I'm first giving myself about a 2-inch tail, and I'm making a 2-inch loop. I'm then adding another 2-inch loop, twisting the ribbon, making another 2-inch loop, and then twisting my ribbon again and making a final 2-inch loop. I'm then placing the floral wire over the center, pulling it back tightly and twisting it. Then to finish up, I fluffed out my loops and I followed the exact same instructions and made a second bow. When I was finished, I snipped the extra wire off of the back. I'm adding the bows to my candle holders by first adding some hot glue under the candle cup. Then all I did was place down the bow. I'm adding on a flower accent, and I'm using two of these pretty dark pink peonies. They came from Temu, and I actually used them in my last video making a wreath. They come with greenery and berries, and I'll be using the berries as well. I snipped the stems off just a bit in the back, and now using my glue gun, I'm attaching one onto the front of each bow. I'm using 4 stems of berries. I cut them short and I added 2 to each flower. These are what I chose to add on to my candlesticks, but you can pretty much use any type or color of flowers. These are complete and you can use them as is, but I'm going to make a permanent riser for mine. I'm starting by using a 9-inch wooden oval, and I picked this up at the Dollar Tree. I'm using my white acrylic paint and I'm giving it a coat. To raise it up, I'm adding on some feet, and I'm using 4 wooden 1-inch beads. And just like the base, I painted them white. The base is dry, and now I'm attaching the beads to the bottom using some E6000. I added some to each bead and then evenly spaced them on the bottom. The base has had a few hours to dry, and now I'm attaching the candlestick holders. I first found their placement, then attached them with my E6000. I'm only using mine for decorative purposes, but if you're going to use yours as a real candle holder, be sure to only use LED candles and not a live flame. These are so pretty, and they definitely add a hint of romance to the room. Here we are at the end of the video, and I really hope you had fun making these Valentine's Day DIYs with me. Be sure to check out my crafty friends on the playlist for more inspiration. And if you're new to my channel and you had a good time and you're thinking, hey, I'd like to come back and hang out with her again, don't forget to click that little red subscribe button below. I hope you all have a safe, healthy, and happy day. And until next time, bye everybody!